Yes, hello. I'm doing another episode, a short episode from 8 Eagles Gather, and I'm doing it in the same location that I did the other day when I did the memorial of the uncle who was killed on Juno Beach, who I'm named after. And up in the background, just behind me, you can see some of that memorial information that I shot onto the last episode. But I just want to share a couple more things about that particular battle and the situation of my uncle being killed on Juno Beach. And in particular, he was with the South Saskatchewan Regiment, operating out of Wynyard, I think it was Southern Saskatchewan. And almost that whole regiment was wiped out that day when they did the attack on Breweries Ridge. And my thoughts go to the point of how many minutes or how many seconds even, okay, did these infantry men have in terms of opportunity to try to get up on top of this ridge with all the German guns firing down at them. And it must have been very, very short and very, very sad indeed. And so because I, have my uncle's name, okay, attached to my name, and that's the first name I go by for a short name, Sig. And the full first name is Sarion, which was his name. My dad's middle name was Edwald, and of course the last name is Erickson. So yeah, I just wanted to say that as kind of I'm still astounded today about all of this stuff and whatnot. And I just want to say this about Canada and the world in general. There seems to be more fighting and more skirmishes going on every step of the way in every place you look these days. And when I think back that I was born in 1948, not too long after my dad came back from overseas, and my sister was born just before me up at a small mining town called Sheridan, Manitoba, northeast of Flin Flon. Eventually he moved down to Brandon, which I'm very, very happy about. But back then, in those days, and I tell people when we distribute our books out at Shiloh Military Base, I had the opportunity, and so did my wife, to grow up with two dads who fought in the Second World War. And it was truly an experience because not everybody can say that to this day. It puts me, when I talk to some of the people I talk to about marketing the book, it puts me in the grandparent category in terms of age relative to these younger people that we have the opportunity to talk to. I taught in Manitoba for over 43 years in various schools in Manitoba. Enjoyed that occupation and that trade very, very much. I wouldn't have traded it for anything else. But I want to share something else with you because sitting right beside me on the table here, and I showed it in the last episode where I talked about Sarion and the things that I had of his. And I'm just kind of reaching out for one of these, his little autograph book right now. And this particular autograph book, here's a picture of it. I have it. And this was written by his mother in this autograph book. And I'm not sure if they thought that he was going to take it with him overseas, but obviously he didn't, or maybe it was sent back with some of his items. But it says, Winnipegosis, Manitoba, November 14th, 1942. Dear Sarion, this is written by my grandmother, his mother. May all the blessing that God can give attend you through all the days that you may live. Love, Mother. And I think about that passage. I look at this book every now and then, and very, very sad indeed that these soldiers give up their lives, fought for freedom, fought for Canada, fought for world peace. And right now, okay, even in Canada, we do not have, right now, and it goes for the United States as well, we do not have the country that our parents fought for way back in those days. So that's very, very sad indeed. And so I just want to bring this little episode, kind of a reflection on my uncle who was killed on Juno Beach, kind of up to date, and kind of show you this little autograph book. And yeah, very, very precious, and I will keep it as long as I'm around. And now we can call this kind of episode as being finished, and I want to share with you some of the things that we do when we market our book directly. It's like I've been writing poems, I've been writing stories, I've been writing things since I was about 8 years of age, and we self-publish, my wife and I. She's the one that does the typing and the design and things like that, and I just kind of come up with the rough copy of what's written. But I'm going to show you the book here in a few minutes that we market directly, and most of that marketing is done directly at Shiloh Military Base. So what happened here was my dad, okay, at some point in time, he left me about 38 pages of handwritten notes about the war, about his personal experiences in the war. And I kept them for years. He passed away in the year 2000, and I didn't read the notes until 20 years later, because here's a copy of the book that my wife and I have put together, Dad at D-Day and Beyond, and right there in the first publishing of this book it says 2020. 20 years later, after he passed away, I read the book. And again, I'd like to say that we had the opportunity to grow up with our dads who were in the Second World War, in the military, things like that, and it was just an awesome experience. My dad was my best parent. He taught me how to hunt, he taught me how to shoot. Him and I were making rocket fuel and rockets down the basement of our house without my mother really knowing what we were doing. And so I thought all of this was fantastic. He liked teaching me things, and he became a builder. He was a builder. The house that he bought in Brandon after he moved down from Sheridan still stands to this day in the north end of Brandon. He wasn't discriminatory against anybody. There were Ukrainian and Polish people in all directions or whatever, but he settled in quite fine with these folks, and absolutely nothing wrong with that. One Ukrainian family became like, the guy there became like my second dad, and it was awesome because we kind of went back and forth trading things and ideas. And he was a boat builder, my dad was a cabinet builder, a cupboard builder, a house builder. He added on to his home as the kids were born. I became a builder, and along with my wife we built log buildings right from scratch. And that means peeling the logs and doing all the machining, all the marking on the logs so that they fit one on top of the other properly. But here's this book, okay, Dad at D-Day and Beyond. And like I said, I didn't read the notes that he'd left me for quite some time. And when I finally read them, I was absolutely in shock. My expressions for myself was, oh my goodness, my dad did this, my dad did that. Oh, you know, I just couldn't believe some of the things that I was reading. So in the contents of this book that we market right now, basically direct marketing at Shiloh Military Base, and my reason for doing this and putting it online with 8 Eagles Gather is that who knows how often and how many more days or times a person is going to have to talk to people directly and to market things and whatnot. The way life is these days, you could be in an automobile accident and things could be over instantly, and that sort of thing. But we're having fun doing this. We really enjoy it because I was involved in teaching for 43 some years in Manitoba. I enjoy talking to everybody and anybody, and that's what we should be doing, is to try to encourage people in these tough times and put a smile on their faces and go from there. So the inside of this book, like right on the front cover here, there's a picture of my dad, okay, and at the bottom of the picture it says Odenburg, Germany. So when he and the further group of soldiers actually landed on Juno Beach, the first landing was on June the 6th, 1944, but when they had gained a beachhead, then that allowed for all the soldiers to come on with supplies and troops and extra guns and equipment, where they spent July, August, September, well into the whole next year. I think the Second World War was over in May sometime, 1945, Victory in Europe Day, when the whole group of soldiers and Allied troops were going up not only the coast of Normandy, but into Brussels, Holland, and ending up in Germany. So it was quite an excursion, quite heavy fighting. There were approximately, I believe, 45,000 some Canadian troops that passed away in the Second World War. So I want to show you a couple of things in this book. There's a few pictures on the front called Dad at D-Day and Beyond. And on the back of the book, there's a picture of my dad in his Legion jacket. I will wear his Legion jacket. I have his medals, and he left them for me in a nice picture case with a glass front. He earned them, not me. I don't even wear his Legion cap when I'm doing presentations. But there's a picture on the back. And at the bottom of the book it says, "Maintain the right, day and night. In the pain of the fight, we will remember them." And truly, we will remember them for what they did for us. And sad to say, we don't have the same country today in Canada or the United States that these men so willingly fought for. And even subsequent battles after, sometimes the Canadian forces have been called the peacekeepers, a peacekeeping force that they would send into a certain country or whatever. But definitely, you know, not wanting to get involved and people to stop the fighting, find some way for making peace treaties or whatever the case may be. Right in the front of this book, and I'm going to show you this, okay, right in the front here is a page showing my dad at the bottom, the Canadian flag back then, and my dad there, okay, is seen as he was in his military uniform and with sergeant stripes on. And what happened there, he got promoted from a corporal to a sergeant, written in this book, and the writings that he left for me was something that he did to be given the additional stripe there of sergeant. Little notes in the corner where he was sending back this picture to my mother, little love notes sent back to her while he was overseas. I want to show you the very back of the book. Okay, just a minute here, let me get to this page. Okay, right at the back of the book. Okay, right here shows a picture at the top of the house that he bought in the north end of Brandon. And he bought it, it still had gray boards on the little house. I mean, these soldiers did not have a lot of money to start into any action or whatever. My dad, after he moved down from northern Manitoba, he spent some time in the Brandon area working at various lumber yards and building places. He actually helped build some housing out at Shiloh Base. So that's became kind of a home base for us and a nice tradition for us to be able to go out there and market our books. Down below that, okay, there's one particular picture. I think it's in the middle. Yes, it's in the middle, okay, of this book, showing my dad, still slim and trim after the war, living down in the north end. My sister's in the picture, but then there's this cute little person sitting in the basket of his bike. And I say to some of the people that I speak to, I said, "Look at that cute little fellow right there." And I said, "Who do you think that is?" And they all guess correctly. They say, "Yeah, that looks like that could be you." And so we have a little laugh together, and I say, "Yeah, but look at the basket I'm sitting in." And I tell them that I'm still a basket case to this very day. So a little bit of joy, a little bit of laughter. People are very, very easy to talk to tell kind of their stories, share some of the things that they have done in their lifetime as well, or share that their grandparents or people that they know were in the Second World War and things like that. I hear stories of people who were in the Air Force, their aircraft shot down, things like that. Only a few people maybe survived in the crash and whatnot, or parachuted out in enemy lines, captured by the German people and things like that, as being able to escape from there. And I think, oh my goodness, you know, like today, would we even think about having the ability to endure such things as that, let alone knowing that we were so far from home, and as in the case of my uncle, not surviving out of the 3 people that I know directly who went into the war, and not necessarily my uncle who was killed overseas, but our 2 dads, and spending a lot of time with them. My dad did not want to talk a lot about the war and things like that. He kind of kept it kind of behind the scenes and to himself. And I think it was during the 60th anniversary of the Juno Beach landing that I said to him, would you like to go over? And I says, I will take you over there. I will fly with you and take you over for this 60th. And think about that, we just passed the 80th anniversary, but he said no, that he did not want to go. And as he worked up at the mental hospital in Brandon, became a psych nurse there, people up there would say to me, they didn't even know. They said, we didn't know that your dad was in the Second World War because he never talked about it very much. But I like to tell people about this little story that I'm going to tell you about my dad. And I, at some point in time, and we all have been there, okay, kind of a cocky teenager, thinking, you know, I'm strong now and I'm pretty able to wrestle with my dad. So I'd say to him, well, let's go out in the front lawn and see if we can wrestle a bit and see if I can put you down on the ground. And before I could actually blink my eyes, he had me flat on the ground, and and I didn't even know what had happened to me or whatever. He didn't hurt me or anything like that, but he showed me that he still had the strength and the ability. And of course, some of the guys that I talked to, yeah, he knew all the moves, he knew what to do exactly, and things like that. So very, very cherished memories of my dad. Both my wife's dad, okay, who fought in the Second World War as well. He started out by driving tanks in Italy up to the front lines. And my dad also operated right on the front lines with the RCOC unit. And so growing up with both of our dads was really incredible, because there's not too many people around today that can say that they actually did that, and be able to talk about those experiences and the things that, you know, my dad personally shared with me, and how he loved doing things with me. I'm just going to take a quick look at this book and see if there's any other pages that I have in here. Well, this one I usually show, and it's kind of at the center of the book, and right there, okay, at the heading of the page on the right, it says, On Our Way to Caen. So that is a page filled there with direct writings from what my dad left me. And some of this stuff is just horrifying to think that people went through this. There were bombs dropping right next to him, fires, he recalls writing in here, explosions. He was digging trenches to sleep in at night with his bare hands, and he told me that if he was in a dugout or a trench, an explosion occurring right close by him would blow over top of him. But if he was exposed on the top of the ground under a tarp or something like that, then you would be instantly killed. He does talk about one thing too in the memories or whatever of a couple of guys, 2 or 3 guys in his unit, or people that he knew, that went to sleep at night under the protection of a tank, of a fairly big tank or gun machine or whatever. And unfortunately, what happened overnight, the tank sank in the wet ground, and the guys were killed underneath the tank as it sank down into the ground. So it just shows, oh my goodness, that, you know, you never know what's going to happen. You could be hit from behind, above, beside you, or whatever. And my dad definitely talks about in this book here, there were definitely snipers close to the front lines where he was, and they knew that people were shooting out of certain buildings. One he describes in here was out of a church building that was a fair ways away, but there were snipers shooting at them. As soon as it kind of came out of the hiding spot where they were, these snipers were shooting at them. So all these tragic things were very, very sad to hear about and read. And they go on today. There doesn't seem to be any let up. So what we did, my wife and I, for the 80th anniversary, we put together a bookmark, okay, for going in the center of the book. And the top says, Normandy, D-Day, Canadians on Juno Beach, 80 years ago. And that was June 1944. On the front page are listings of information, commanders in charge of the various units at that time. I think there were somewhere around 390 Canadians killed on the initial invasion of the beach itself and the securing of the beach on June the 6th, 1944. After they got it secured, they were able to move inland further and later bring all the troops and all the supplies in. But on the front is what was happening basically at that day, D-Day, okay, a marked certain day, but it went on for months after that. That was like the doorway into Normandy for the Canadian forces. It was called Juno Beach. On the back, okay, it's a whole host of information that my wife and I put together of interesting sites that you can go to on YouTube, on the computer system and things like that. Okay, there's one here. I just want to point out a few because I tell people all about these. Well, Vimy Ridge is up here, Passchendaele. That's World War I, of course. There's the Merchant Marine, which a lot of people don't know about. The Merchant Marine were the ordinary shipping lines of regular shipping companies that were drafted into war service, had to carry supplies back and forth from Canada and from the United States to supply the war effort overseas. So there's one down here toward the bottom. I always like having fun with people because I did teach out at Shiloh Base when there was a high school there. That was back in 1970 to 71, I believe. I had soldiers sitting in my laboratory, the front row bench of my laboratory, and they were all dressed up in uniform. They'd been given the opportunity because Shiloh at that time had a high school, and if they had dropped out of school earlier, they had the opportunity to come to a high school and get their grade 12. One here called the Canary Girls. So Canary Girls, and kind of I have a little bit of fun with that with the soldiers, talking with them. Say, well, what do you think that is? And in actual fact, what that was, those were the people working on the home front back home in Canada and the United States, people who were loading explosives into the shells and into the bombs, and the chemical that was inside actually turned their skin a yellowish color. So that's why they were given the kind of the heading, the Canary Girls. Another one that I like down here is called the SOE, capital letters, SOE. Okay, the British and the smart people that were involved in planning a lot of the operations and coordinating them with other ethnic background troops in the Second World War as they proceeded up through Belgium and Holland and into Germany. The SOE, okay, a special group that was formed called the Special Operations Executive. I kind of like that one, and you can see it online on TV and read all about it. Special Operations Executive was like a spy unit that was created, and it's fascinating to look at some of the things that they did there. They would go parachute behind enemy lines, basically with no uniform on, blow up bridges and things like that that were being held in German hands and whatnot. Very, very fascinating, the things that happened during a course of wartime. In the center of the fold-out, and I won't spend too much time on this, but it's a map. It's a map showing, okay, where my dad grew up in north of Dauphin, Winnipegosis, Manitoba, where he got his kind of draft orders or enlisting orders, and went down to Portage-la-Prairie, was given a uniform in Portage-la-Prairie, went on to Kingston, Halifax, eventually overseas on a Polish ship called the Batory. Now the Batory was a ship that was called the Lucky Ship. It made several passages back and forth across the Atlantic and not being sunk or whatever, so called the Lucky Ship. Then the map also shows there at the bottom, okay, that on the destroyer convoy ship that my dad went overseas on, coming into northern Scotland, eventually into England, doing lots of training there, and they didn't know what they were particularly being prepared for, but of course leaving Dover Beach one appointed time and day over and landing on Juno Beach and starting the securing and the defeat of the Germans all the way along the northern corridor of France known as Normandy, into Brussels, into Holland, and eventually into Germany. So that's what I wanted to present to you today, this book, and basically that is very, very similar to the presentation that I give out at the military base at Camp Shiloh that we're kind of associated with and do our direct sales. So I'm going to say that's it for this session right now. So much enjoyed doing this presentation with you, because like I said, if there comes a point in time when I can't give this anymore, at least it's online on the site 8 Eagles Gather. Thank you. Bye for now.